Welcome to this introductory training on how to use QGIS Desktop. My name is Emmanuel. I'm the founder of Giseria, and in this tutorial, I'm going to be walking you through how you can use the QGIS Desktop interface to create maps and also to perform field mapping projects using the QGIS ecosystem of maps and mobile applications. QGIS is an open source geographic information system that allows you to map, query, analyze, and visualize geospatial data. It also integrates with a number of applications and interfaces and also plugins to allow you to conduct field mapping projects and also acquire spatial data in the field. When you install QGIS for the first time, you have this interface show up. This is QGIS Desktop, and this is essentially the geographic information system deployment on the desktop that comes installed with all the necessary features you need to be able to create and analyze geospatial data on your desktop. So when you get this QGIS interface upon installation, there are a number of toolbars that will be visible to you. The first is the menu toolbar where you have project, edit, view, layer, settings, and the rest of them. So these menus provide contextual menus for performing various features. The project menu allows you to manipulate and manage your project. Use the edit menu to create and edit geospatial data. You can manage the views of the various panels using the view menu. The layer panel is used for managing layers and also editing layer referencing. You can change various settings and options about the application in the settings menu. The plugin menu is used for managing and installing various plugins. Plugins are attachment applications that are attached to the software with various functionality that extend the base functionality of QGIS. We use the vector toolbar to perform a number of vector analysis tools, geoprocessing tools, and work on geometry tools. Raster is used to perform analysis on raster data and perform extraction and other kinds of raster-based analysis. The database toolbar contains the DB manager, which allows you to perform database management operations on various database management plugins that are attached into QGIS, like the geo packages and the other plugins into the ecosystem. There are a number of plugins that also work with web services that allow you to connect to metadata and also web services. The mesh menu allows you to work with mesh data, and the processing menu allows you to work with various analytical tools and functions that have been built to perform analysis in QGIS. QGIS also comes with help to allow you to be able to get help on any tool that is integrated into the system. There is also a documentation you can download from the QGIS website at www.qgis.org/documentation. Okay, so when you are installed, you can also have access to a number of toolbars. Toolbars are these panels on the next layer that allow you to work easily with a number of most widely used tools, okay, that are used to work with a number of files. So if I right click on the open space here, I have access to a number of panels and I have access to toolbars. These areas here in the main screen are called panels. So over here I have the browser panel, I have the layers panel, I have the map view panel here. Okay, so currently I don't have a project open. So when I go to project and a new project is open and I have a map view window open here. Alright, so I can drag my panels around the map, the window interface, and dock them into any area I want. The panels are draggable and they are dockable anywhere. So to make any panel visible, all I have to do is right click in the white space here and tick on the box here to make any panel visible. So for instance, I can make the processing toolbox panel visible by clicking here, and then the processing toolbox panel comes up here. I can also deactivate that by clicking the processing toolbox icon here to deactivate the panel. Panels are also draggable and readjustable on each side of the window. The toolbars as well are draggable and adjustable. They are also dockable and can be removed from each panel and be used for work while any kind of mapping task is going on. And just like the panels, to undock or hide any toolbar, all you need to do is to check the box, right click, and undock any toolbar you don't need at the moment. QGIS comes with something known as favorites. Favorites are located in the browser panel, and they allow us to easily locate places on our desktop that contain geospatial data. The browser panel is used to access various geospatial data files on our computer, and we use the bookmarks here to connect to places on our projects that we would like to reach at a later time. So to add a favorite from my computer, I would add a location to where I have data stored for the project. I have this folder I created which contains a number of project files I will be using for the for the project, and also to work with the various QGIS features. And so I will just add this to my favorites by going to the favorites, right clicking, add a directory, and I'll locate the folder over here. So having selected the folder over here, I'll click select folder, and now the folder is in my favorites. So whenever I open a new project, I can always access the folder in my new projects and any subsequent projects I have. I can also expand the folder to see what it contains and right click to rename the favorite. Alright, the next thing is exploring how to work with a map in the QGIS and also how to work with projects. So QGIS comes with something known as a project file, which is essentially a way to organize the various map layers into a single file for visualization in QGIS. And so to open a project file, QGIS stores project file in something known as a QGS file, which essentially allows us to store the various layers of a map into a QGS file. And so if I click this file, which is a QGS file, I can open it and see what the project looks like in QGIS. QGIS also stores files in something known as a QGZ, which is also a zipped file format that contains the various layers and settings of your map compressed into a QGZ file. And so in a project, you have various layers that are aligned up together just like this, which have a layered arrangement of thematic layers that model different aspects of the real world. So for instance, in this map, we have a places layer that shows locations of towns. We have a rivers layer that shows locations of drainage features and river courses. And then we have a structure layer that shows locations and linear structures, okay, geological structures across a region. And then we have a polygons layer showing geology, and we also have an elevation raster layer showing elevation for the area. And so you can also manage and get more information about layers. When you hover over a layer, you see a pop-up that shows you the name of the layer, the type and geometry of the layer, the layer's coordinate reference system, and also the path to the layer's location on your disk. You can also get more information about the layer by right clicking and selecting properties to get more information about the layer. And so in the information panel, you can have more information about the layer. And I can see here that my layer is currently a shape file, which is an open shape format, and also it has a coordinate reference system of WGS 84. The number here 4326 is known as the well-known ID, which is essentially a number that is used to quickly identify this coordinate reference system. And I can also see here that this is a geographic coordinate system which uses latitude and longitude for its units. If I want to get more information about the source of the layer, I can click here. And if I want to navigate to where the layer is stored on my disk, I can click this link to the path over here, and it brings up the location of the layer on my disk. So I can see that the layer is a shape file which contains a number of files that are linked together, okay, to provide information on the shape geometry. And so this particular file is called a shape file, and it links to a number of other files that allow you to display the file in a geographical information system. And so I can also see this PRJ file, which also stores the projection information of the file, and this SHP file stores the geometry of the file. And so when working with shape files, it's important to make sure that they are stored each layer in a folder to ensure that each of the different files do not get missing and corrupt the shape file. And so if, for instance, I cannot find the path to a layer, QGIS shows me an information box here that the layer source is unavailable, meaning that it cannot access the location of the layer. So what I can do is to right click and repair the data source, and so I can navigate to where the layer is stored and ask QGIS to repair the data source. And so once that is done, my layer now shows up the way it's supposed to show up in my map. One more thing you can do with layers is to adjust and drag their positions in the layers panel. And so for instance, I can take my rivers up, I can bring various layers down to adjust their locations, and also to manage their visibility. So what you have to ensure is that point layers are placed on top, and after that you should have line layers, and then polygon layers, and any raster layers could be placed below. So in order to get this to the top, I can right click and select move to top, okay. And if, for instance, I have my elevation layer up here, I can also right click and say move to bottom. And so when doing your analysis or visualizing layers, you can also uncheck a layer to make it invisible so that you can see other layers and perform your analysis. And you can also check layers to make them visible as well. Finally, you can also apply layer styling and symbology using the layer styling panel by clicking this first icon here in the layers panel. And this brings up another panel known as the layer styling panel, and this is where we perform the styling options of our layer. So from here I can also adjust the layer visibility, adjust other items, configure labeling, and perform other functions on the layer. And so for instance, I can increase the transparency of a layer by changing its opacity, and now you can see that I am able to see the underlying elevation layer in my map. So I can close this layer for now so that I can have more screen real estate to perform other functions in my project. And so it's important to always save the customizations you make on your map by clicking save. If you have a map with unsaved changes, QGIS will show you an asterisk close to the project name to allow you to save that map, and once the map is saved, your asterisk is gone. Alright, so to get started with our project, I'm going to open up a new project by clicking new on this icon here, or going to project and also clicking new from here. And so when I click new, I'm presented with a new project that has no layers opened at the moment. And so to bring in a layer, I go to browser panel and explore the various folders that we have here. When a new project is created, we have a blank map canvas and there are a number of defaults that are already set. QGIS uses a default coordinate system of WGS 1984, which you can see on this bar below. And this bar below is known as the status bar, which shows you the various status of all the tasks you're running and the tools and analysis from here. You can see the position of your mouse coordinates, okay, using the coordinate box here. You can change the scale of your map when you zoom in and out, okay, using your mouse or trackpad. You can use the magnifier to magnify the image or the resolution or the zoom of various features in the window. And you also alter the coordinate reference system using this box over here. So if I click this box, I can bring up the coordinates reference system properties for the project, okay, and I can see various project properties. Now this is the project properties, which is different from the layer properties. To get to the project properties, I go to project and select properties. Now I can also come back to the CRS menu and also see various coordinate reference systems that I can choose from. And as I said, I can also filter by the well-known ID, okay, which will take me to the very coordinate reference system that I am looking for. And so if I'm satisfied, I can click OK, okay, and apply to set the project coordinates reference system. So to bring in data for my projects, what I can do is to come to where I have my shape files and bring in a shapefile that has the boundary coordinates for my project. And so I'll right click this boundary. Now the data we are working with is coming from a place in um, southeastern Nigeria, a town called Nara, which contains a number of projects files that highlight the geology and the structure and the natural features of the region. I have this boundary shape file here that contains a boundary polygon for the study area. So I'll right click that shapefile and select add layer to project. And so I'll go to my layers panel and I can see that the layer has been added to my project and to my map. And so by default, QGIS gives the layer a default styling, which is rendered in the map view. So to alter the layer styling, so I can go to the layers styling panel. Now by default, the layer styling panel is used to style various layers in my map. Let me go back to the browser and bring in another layer called places. I'll right click and select add layer to project. Now this layer has been added to project, and so in the layer styling panel, whenever I select a layer, that becomes the active layer in the layer styling panel. And so if I select this becomes the active layer, and any settings I'm making here applies to this particular layer. So if I wanted to apply my settings to this, I can also come to the layer styling panel over here and change the active layer to places. I can give it a single symbol. Now when I click marker, that applies to all added symbology on the marker. QGIS allows us to add multiple symbols to a marker to create a number of symbol styles. And so I can append multiple symbols together. Now if I edit this applies to the whole symbols that are here, but if I click this, it applies to this particular symbol only. I can also remove a symbol if I do not need it. So I want to edit the symbol marker, which has a symbol layer type of simple marker for my places. So I'll give that a color, a fill color of black. I can also give it another fill color of another color. Okay, but since it has a fill color, a stroke color of black, let me give it a fill color of black. And so the fill color fills the internal area of the marker, while the stroke color fills the line around the marker. And so you can see that I have a stroke line of solid line, and you can also play around with other menus here for the um, the symbology of the places. And so I can also edit the symbology of the boundary by selecting the boundary and using a different kind of fill. Right now I'm having a simple fill which just fills the internal area and gives it a simple boundary color. Now I don't want the boundary, I only want the boundary line. I do not want to fill the internal area so I can see other information within the study area. So I will select a different symbol layer type by clicking this drop down and coming down and selecting outline simple line. Now I can only see an outline of the map, and this outline is essentially referring to the stroke color. So I can give that a different color, say red. And I can increase the width from here. So I have this live update checkbox checked here, meaning that whenever I make a setting, it is automatically applied to my map. If I were to uncheck this, then I'll have to click apply to apply any setting I make whenever I change anything. So I'm just going to leave that on for now and move on with other settings. So I'm comfortable with the boundary now, and I can click save to save my project so that I can save all the settings that I have made. So I'm going to go back to the project folder where I saved my on my disk and create a new QGIS project file. Now my project file is saved. Now one more thing I can do using the layer styling panel is to style and add labels to any features. So I want to add labels to my places. I will select the places to make it active, and now in this styling menu I'll click the second option here, which is for labels. And then right now I have no labels selected, so I'll click the drop down and select single labels. And now it uses the features and the attributes to style my layers. So now when we bring in spatial data into a geographic system, we're essentially bringing in layers in from the table. Every layer contains something known as an attribute table, vector layers, which essentially contain a number of added columns with information for each feature and their geometry. So to get to the attribute table of any layer, I would right click and select open attribute table. The attribute table is just like any other panel. It is dockable. Okay, and so to dock my attribute table, I'll click the last icon here which says dock attribute table. That now positions it here within my map so that I can see it and I can resize it to fit in to my map view. So I can see here that I have a name field in my towns places column. Okay, and so when I'm applying my label, I use the label value from my name field to populate my label. If I were to use another field, then that will be the default labeling field. So I'm just going to stick with the name field to name the labels and assign labels to them. I can also change the font of my labels. I can give them a different style, alter their size, okay, and also change the colors of the label. I can also change the transparency as well. and also work with other styles for the label. So I'm comfortable with the map at this point, and I can click save to save all my map settings. So next up, we are going to consider how to import and raster data. We've been looking at how to import vector data into our map. I'm going to quickly import a number of other vector layers into my map so that I can visualize them and then also work on importing raster layers. Now this layer is coming in with a different coordinate system, and QGIS shows me a pop-up for the layer transformation. So when a layer comes with a different coordinate system, QGIS performs what is known as a transformation to transform the positioning from one coordinate system to another. And so this is transitioning from this coordinate system so that it can display in our project coordinate system, which is WGS84. This is a coordinate system known as MENA, which is particular to Nigeria. Okay, and so this is now translated to WGS84 using this transformation of MENA to WGS84. So I'll click OK to perform the transformation. QGIS renders the line features. So when I'm going through my attributes for my structures, I can see that I have different classes of structures in my map. I have faults, I have synclines, I have anticlines. So I want to style them differently based on the various types of structures I have. So I'm going to use a different kind of styling, okay, known as categorized styling. Right now I have single symbol, which just applies the same color and styling to all the lines. So I'm going to click this checkbox here and select categorized and give it a different value based upon the type column here. And so when I do that, I'm going to come down to this box over here and click classify. And so it's now going to give them some colors based upon the different type values. And you can also see them listed in a legend in the layers panel. So I'm going to give them different colors based upon their various attributes by double clicking the symbols over here. And to go back to the previous menu, I'm just going to click this arrow to go back. For my fault, I want to use a different type of line. So I'm going to come down to the simple line and click a different type of line. I'm going to make the stroke style dashed. I'm going to make the line red. I want to change the dash pattern to be a different type of dash. Right now it looks like this, but I want to make it a lot more wider. So I'll use a custom dash pattern. Now I can see that my faults are a little bit wider. So I can also change the units of the dash so that it looks different. Now I've brought in my rivers layer, and so rivers essentially drainage and water courses through my study area. So if I have multiple attributes open, I can open them and dock them, and to navigate between the various tables, I just click on this bottom panel here to navigate between the various tables I have. Now I have my rivers panel open. So I'm just going to give you the default symbology for now. So at this point, I'm going to close my map and save my map. And so in the next tutorial, we're going to explore bringing in features that have adjoint tables from other layers, and we'll explore how to perform and select features and also perform joins from multiple tables to be able to better symbolize and visualize the layers in our map.